Hello and welcome to Tweed's Garage, where I introduce you to Gladstone, my 1929 Riley 9 Monaco Mark IV. So this is Gladstone, my Riley Monaco, and as you can see, it's not all in one piece at the moment. I was going to do a video of a sort of road test and a sort of review of it, but yeah, that didn't happen. I pulled it into the garage after a drive in about November last year, and I was checking for oil leaks actually, and I looked underneath and there was a puddle of liquid underneath, and I thought, oh, here we go, the gearbox is still leaking, but it turned out to be the radiator. So I thought, right, okay, well, we'll pull it in and sort the radiator out, and then I thought, well, whilst we're there, you know how it goes, whilst we're there we might as well do the gearbox oil leak, and then, oh yeah, we might as well see why that head gasket's weeping slightly, and then it goes on. So this is its current state at the moment. It's sort of got to the point of, well, nearly being taken to pieces as far as it's going to go. But I'll take you around it and show you what I've done and work to be done, and what the problems were with it. Yeah, so a little bit of history. I've only owned the car since July. I bought it from a chap a very nice chap in Banbury. He'd had it 25 years, and I've got all the original logbooks for it, so it's got a nice bit of history with it. And it started off originally, let me get this right, it started off, first owner was in, hang on, get the right logbook. This one here, I think. Yeah, it was first sold to a chap in Newport, and then a year or two later it went to another chap in Newport, and then it went to Chelmsford in Essex, and then it moved on to another chap in Essex, and then it goes on to, where did it go then? It went to Eatonwick in Windsor, Berkshire, and then it went to Warwick, and then on to another chap in Warwick, and then from Warwick it went down to Bridgewater in Somerset, and I think there's a badge on the dashboard, we'll have a look later, of an old dealer's badge on the dashboard, and then it went back to Warwick, and then to Stamford in Lincolnshire, and then finally to the chap I bought it off in Banbury and Oxford, and he'd had it 25 years before I bought it. So yeah, I sort of went along not knowing what to expect. I hadn't looked into Rileys that much. I'd been looking for another 1920s, late 1920s, early 30s vintage car. Previously I had a 1927 Chevrolet Capital AA. I'll put a picture up of it for you so you can have a look. Yeah, so I had that for about a year, just over a year. Spent a lot of time working on it, and got it running, but decided in sort of modern traffic, especially around where I live, is people haven't got a clue what sort of, you know, how difficult it is driving one of these cars in amongst fast traffic. And the trouble with a Chevrolet, it had no shock absorbers, so it was just fully sprung, no damping on it. Cornering was always fun because you never quite knew which side of the road you were going to come out of the other side of the bend as you went into it. And the other problem was it only had rear wheel brakes, which is, for the time, was fine, but for today, with sort of fast changing traffic lights and stuff like that, it's just, you know, it's just asking for trouble. So I was looking around for something with at least brakes on all four wheels, which the Riley has, and also an interesting engine, which the Riley has. So if you don't know, this is the engine in pieces, and it's a sort of famous Riley twin high cam 1053 engine. And then it went on. It gradually got bigger to 1500 and up to 2 litres. I might be wrong on there, but it gradually got bigger, like a lot of these engines. But this is where it started. So twin cam and a high cam, which means that the cam shafts are a lot higher than they are in an overhead valve engine, and then they just operate the valves by a very short push rod, which are over there in a cardboard box. So yeah, so it was running. I took it for a test drive, and yeah, really liked it. It did sort of die out on me at a junction and then got going, so I sort of put it down to age. But when I went back home and had to think about it, I realised that I hadn't advanced the ignition when I drove it, so it's obviously just got hot and petered out. Once it restarted, it was fine. So the deal was done, and the chap looked a bit shocked because he said he'd been out in it and about in it. You know, which I'll take him for his word, but it may have been a few years before he'd taken it out for a long run. And I know I don't blame him. I've been guilty of it myself. I've put a motorbike against a wall, lost my temper with it, leaned it against the wall in the garage, and thinking it had been there for a year. Talking to my mate about it, he said, "No, you put that against the garage wall at least 4 years ago." And time just goes so fast. So it's like the Chevrolet I had that allegedly had been on the road about a year before I bought it, but there was no way. I found an old tax disc for it, and just going over it, it had been off the, you know, it hadn't been run for at least 10 years. So yeah, so he looked a little bit shocked, but I was confident that it would do it. We checked all the oils for me and made sure it was all right, and went up with the good lady Tweed and a friend of mine who come along for the ride, and we drove it 70 miles from Banbury back to Basingstoke, sort of stopping every 20 miles just to sort of give it a rest. And no, he made it back. He made it back fine, and then a couple of other drives gradually got better, you know, because a lot of these cars where they're left standing, it doesn't do them any good, so you need to give them a run. And you know, the more runs you give them, the better they get. You know, the suspension is normally, the suspension on this, the rear axle had rusted solid in its axle bearings, because the rear axle actually rotates because it hasn't got a universal joint in the back. So it actually relies on the axle rotating on its spring mountings like that, and then there's a universal joint on the engine end of it. But that, when I took that apart, that was frozen solid. So literally we'd been driving it with basically the back suspension locked up. What else? I think there was a problem with the front brakes. There was springs in the wrong place, and so the front brakes weren't working, which made for an exciting roundabout. Modern driving again. Look right, as roundabout was clear, giving me time, and I sort of went out, and as I got just to the junction, starting to go out in the roundabout, a guy in a Mini comes shooting across, and I slammed on the brakes and luckily managed to stop, but only just, you know. So it's that is the thing with these cars. Even when you're really careful, you know, modern cars are so fast, you know, you've got to watch for it all the time. So anyway, yes, we had a little drive around in it, enjoyed it, but decided what was going to happen was I'd drive it a bit, and then if it needed a little bit of work, I'd do a little bit of work on it, and then drive it again and keep it on the road, keep it going. Yeah, and anyway, as you see, that plan hit a brick wall, and so we're in the situation we are at the moment. So I thought I'd just, you know, if you're interested, I'll take you around and sort of show you what I've been doing to hopefully get it all back together very soon. So let's have a look inside Gladstone. As you can see, it's still got its original leather interior and carpet lowers to the doors. They look a bit faded, but I think some of it's dust. I gave a little bit of it a hoover, but I'll give them a good old clean up and see how they come up. They're not too moth-eaten. This blue carpet on the sill boards is not original, and I'm not sure about these carpets here. I think they may have been replaced at some time, but this definitely, this sort of maquette style blue and black material on the side is original. The seats are original, and unfortunately they're just placed back here out of the way at the moment because space is of premium. But the lever had sort of dried, but I gave it a good feed, and they've come up really nice. But I'll put a video up of that, the sort of work I've done on those. Chassis been painted on the inner rails and some of the passenger floor as I could get access to it. Dashboard is all original. I've taken all the gauges out and cleaned them and spruced them up where need be. The clock, lovely clock, Watford clock, does work, but it's just a bit sticky to initially get it started. You have to sort of flick it, and then it will run for 8 days quite happily. So it needs a little bit of a clean on the escarpment measurement, escarpment movement. The switch panel, the control panel, I've had that out and rewired all the connections to it and sorted out. There was a problem with the switch was rubbing, but I've sorted that out. The switch gear behind was misaligned with the front panel and wasn't allowing it to move properly. It was rubbing on the front, but no, it's sorted all that. That works lovely. Speedo's just tucked that out of the way at the moment because I had to take the steering column out, and it was getting in the way of one of the bolts. So that will be going back in soon. Let's go over the other side. Yeah, here's the switch gear from the other side. It's got a lovely movement to it now, whereas before it was grating and scraping. And then that's that garage plate I was saying about earlier, but that's down in Penzance, but nobody's owned it down in Penzance. Whether it sort of just had a service down there, or it was just something that somebody stuck on, I don't know. What else we got under here? So all the electrics are there. It's got the original bitumen and aluminium wound mains power cable going up to the starter switch. I've got new cables for this, and I will make some new ones up, so I'll probably do a little video of that somewhere. I think they've served their time, so I'll replace them with something a little bit more modern. And here's the block. Now the reason that this is coming out, I don't know if you can see at the moment, yeah, just there. It is a problem on these engines. It's very thin metal between the bores and the pockets for the push rods, and the studs screw through this small amount of cast iron and project into the waterways, and then over the years it corrodes and thins underneath, and then they get done up too tight, and it causes this cracking between the bores and the pushrod holes, and on the other side as well. So it's pretty much gone on the inner 8 stud holes. Oh, you can see that one. Yeah, a little crack there, see. So it's got to go for a rather expensive bit of laser welding to have that all welded up, but it'll be nice to keep it because it is the original block. Original engine out of this chassis, and I've got the trouble is it's still hanging from the ceiling because I sent the wheels away to get the colour changed, and I wasn't too keen on the pale blue, and they've taken a little while to come back. I've got the other ones to go on, but as soon as I've got them on, I can roll the car out from underneath and lower the engine down and finish stripping it off. Done some work on the front cross member, where over the years the radiator had been leaking around the mounting holes here and here, especially on this side. It had started pitting it quite badly around here. I'll show you a picture of that. So what I done is I cleaned it all out, ground it out, and then built it up with weld and kept grinding it down and got it back to fairly level and nice. I'll give a coat of paint. And here's the radiator, which was the initial problem for starting to take it apart. And it had a leak. Oh, it's got a leak just on the joint down there where it sort of, there's a crack in the solder. So I think I'll be able to sweat that back in. But that was the least of my troubles. So as well as the cracked block, one of the other problems was it had two pairs of pistons in. Two like the ones on the left with this sort of double chamfer, and two like the ones on the right with just a single chamfer, shallower chamfer. Yeah, I mean, years ago it was difficult to find parts for these cars, so I suspect at the time they just put in what they could get hold of. But now with the Riley register, there's a lot more parts available, so I've got this nice set of later pistons to go in once the block's been sorted out. So it'll raise the compression ratio slightly, but with modern fuels, and that should pep the performance up just a little bit. So yeah, look forward to getting them in. So some of the parts waiting to go back in now. We have the gearbox is all cleaned up where it needs be, and the oil leak was found. It was the rear seal on the back of the gearbox. They're a cork ring seal, and the one that was in there had a diagonal cut in it. Whether they'd done that to get it in or whether that was what it was like, and I suspect at the time it was tight, but over the years it's dried out, and it was about a 3mm gap at the top, so literally the oil was just sloshing out the back of the gearbox. So it's got a new seal in there, and I'm pretty much 100% convinced that will stop the leak out of the gearbox and the embarrassing pool of oil on the floor every time you stopped it. The engine mounts are all cleaned up. The engine mount bars ready to go back in. It's got new rubbers on it because the old ones were rock hard, and this bar was seized in as well, so I should imagine that the sort of driving quality of the car will be a lot better. Well, it wasn't bad before, but yeah, some of the vibrations and smooth, it'll make it a lot smoother, and it was a bit of a pig to get out, as I'll show you on this video. Yeah, and the handbrake just cleaned up and checked over. Steering steering box, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They're really well made, these boxes, and hardly wear at all. You just need a good degreasing, and just polished up the advance and retard and the throttle lever and the base of the steering wheel. Just gave it a bit of a clean, but it's in in good order. I don't want to over restore it. I just want to sort of keep it with its patina that it's got over the years and keep driving it. Made a new battery tray. This is a bit like Trigger's broom, the original one. I think some of it might be original, but it's had different bits of metal added to it over the years, and a bit of galvanised steel there, and then a bit of aluminium in the middle. So this is a new one I've made to go in, welded up, and I've put in a couple of extra bracings just to stop it bending in the middle, which I suspect is why they rotted away. We're just bouncing in the middle and fatiguing. So yeah, got that to go in. Yeah, there's another little problem that came to light when I was just looking over it. I didn't see it when I looked at the car. Let's get some light on the subject. But just here, move this cable out right, on this leaf spring is a lovely repair. So at some time it's cracked down here, and the crack's been welded, and then they've bridged it and welded each side. I mean, looking at the weld, it's been there for donkey's years, so it's can't knock the repair. It's still working, but it's probably not advisable to drive with it if you don't have to. So a very nice chap with a Riley had a spare top leaf, which he kindly gave me, so that will be going on. So I'll do a little video of taking the springs apart, cleaning them, and putting them back together. So it's the right length and everything. It might be a little bit different because it's got a dimple in it, so I have to grind a bit back off of this, so it bolts together with the slightly older springs. See, they don't have a dimple in them. Yeah, what else we've done? Sorted the front brakes out. They were, for some reason, it had springs in front. They never actually had springs, but with the springs in front, of course, what was happening, you put the front brakes on when the front brakes went on, and all they were doing was just pulling the spring before they were pulling the brakes on. Well, they weren't pulling the brakes on, they were just pulling the spring. So I couldn't get an answer whether springs were mounted on or not, so I put the springs behind, so they just act as a bit of a shock absorber on the back of the brake lever. But yeah, they work fine now. They won't pull together because they're disconnected at the moment. But yeah, so that has improved the front brakes. And another job to do. It's not as desperate. I can bolt it on after the radiator and everything's gone back on, but it's this front cover valance that goes over the cross member and around the sides. At some time it's had a repair. Obviously another victim of radiator leaking over the years. We flip it round and you can see here, yeah, it's had a new bit of steel, obviously gas welded in. I don't know how they done it or what they done, but it distorted massively, and you can see where it's fine on this side, but where it rested on this side, you see where the paint is, it curved inwards, missed the original mounting hole, and just had a sort of washer and a clamp at the end. So the plan is, because it's got these pieces in it, and they cut a chunk out. Yeah, they cut a chunk out this side as well to clear the engine mounting where this this whole thing had sort of bent in like this. So because it's got these nice, you know, these little impressions on each side to miss the rivets on the chassis, and to keep as much of the car original as I can, I'll cut this repair out to a decent point and then straighten this back out, put a new piece of metal in, and then weld it back in and sort of put a repair back in here as well, where they've cut the tin work out there, because apart from that it's not too bad. It's not the thickest steel, it's a little bit bent in places, but I would probably replace the number plate, make some new hinges for the number plate. They're sort of they're a little bit bent and twisted. This is a Zenith carburetor I've done a few little jobs on, some that needed doing. This screw broke off just by undoing it. It just sheared off, you know, just with age hardening. Silver soldered the inner housing for the inlet for the choke lever, because it had worn and it was going over and sort of starting to choke down again on when the choke was fully off, and there was a crack on the outer housing lower down. Silver soldered that up as well, and then made a new jet housing, because the original one, what you have to do is unscrew it. You unscrew it, raise it up, and then see this slot, you pull it towards you, and then there's a venturi, aluminium venturi in there, moves around, and then you can pull this housing, drops out, so you can clean it out and check it. But over the years this has got coked up and was seized solid inside the throttle mouth, and this has just got worn at the top end, where you see there where it had been yanked on over the years. So I turned a new one of these up, and then it wasn't necessary, but being a fan of the David Vizard books, I also decided to make a new butterfly for the carburetor, because the original one was extremely restrictive on an open throttle. This is the original butterfly, and it's a huge chunk of brass. It looks like two pieces of plate with a collar in, but I think it is one casting that's filed down to size, and then the shaft fits through the middle like that. But it's absolutely massive when it's in the throat. It's so restrictive on an open throttle that I decided I could do better than that. And after reading for years reading the David Vizard mini tuning books on SUs, I thought a simple solution was this. So it's a bit difficult to see, but I'll put some photos out of the work done. So it's a thin down shaft, and then a butterfly milled out down the middle to sit over the shaft and presents a much better lower profile on an open throttle. So should aid the top end a little bit. So that's ready to go on. Made some new, I've got a few more to make, but these are all the throttle linkages and timing linkages have these little ball joints, and they're all absolutely cream crackered. So I've turned up some new ones and then kept the original rods. You know, rather than buying new rose joints and it all looking new and modern, it keeps it original. And there's a cylinder head all cleaned up, valves reground and tidied up a bit, given a lick of paint. Made new new studs for the not the thermostat housing, but the water outlet housing, because being aluminium with a steel bolt going through it, it acts like an anode and they just corrode away. I've turned up a new one there, and just done a metal epoxy repair on the pitting on the outlet hose at the top there, stop any water leaks when it goes back together. Got some nice new hoses to go on there, and yeah, I think that's about it. So stuff's going to go back on, and I'll do some more, post some more videos up of work done and work in progress. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the introduction to Gladstone, my 1929 Riley Monaco. I'll put some more videos up. Some of the work that I've done, I've gone over. The trouble is I was so involved in trying to get it done that I didn't do any videos at the time. I took lots of snippets, so hopefully there'll be enough to sort of cobble together so you can see some of the work that I've been doing on it. And then hopefully in the near, not too distant future, it'll be back on the road, so I can do a road test and we can go for a run in it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching, and keep posted to see if anything else comes up. I'm going in to have a cup of tea because it's bloody freezing, and I'll see you again. All right, bye.